Welcome to another episode of This Is Not What I Meant. I'm Anati Patyal, and it has been a minute since I last recorded a podcast on psychopaths. Oh, where I talk about unpacking the philosophy of psychopaths. Yes, and it was a great episode for me in the sense that I had an opportunity to read upon some of the philosophical theories, and it was great. Learning about determinism and Nietzsche's theories. I totally forgot about that, didn't I? But yeah, it's out there. It's out there, and I can listen. It's out there on wherever you listen to podcasts, on Spotify, Apple, Google. Okay, so anyway, I wanted to talk about Dr. Stone, and it has been 3 months since I last saw the season 2 of this show. And yep, it is an anime. It is the third anime in the series that I've done, if I don't include Death Note. So that would be Kakegurui, Psychopaths, and now Dr. Stone. So, about Dr. Stone, it is a shonen anime. Now, I haven't talked about the kinds of animes that are there. So, a shonen anime is where there's a male protagonist, a young male protagonist who is pre-adolescent or not, just starting out in his life journey, and then they go through a series of life-altering experiences, and there is adventure in it, and yep, kids lap it up. But I will reiterate, anime has much deeper storylines. I'd like to think that. No, that's true. They do have much deeper storylines and they have better writing. So, about Dr. Stone. Now, here is the clincher about the show. Why I watched it was that a friend recommended to me. And I just okay, why not just binge it together? So Netflix Party was an option, and the first season is on Netflix, and I had no idea what the show is about. I'm like, okay, it says doctor, it says stone, and there is this weird looking guy with a lab coat, and the lab coat has this marking on it, engraving on it, E equals to MC square, so that tells us that he's a scientist. Kudos to the costume department for highlighting the fact that he knows Einstein. Or is a brainiac scientist, I guess that's why they have E equals to MC square on his lab coat. So his name is Senku. Indian audiences are somebody who speaks Hindi, they would Senku, no, Stone Doctor, I guess. But his name is Senku, and he has this wacky hairdo. I mean, his character's whole outlook screams to be made into a cosplay, and it has been made to in cosplay, because this anime came out in 2020 only, and the manga series has been going on. It's still continuing, but the anime came out in 2020, and yep, it is good. So what happens in the show, right? So Senku is there, his friend is there. Now we're following the friend in the first episode, and he wants to propose to this girl, and he's not able to because he's super shy and he doesn't know if the girl likes him. But he musters up the courage to tell her that, yeah, he has been pining for her for ages. I'm assuming it's ages because he seems very desperate. And he goes to Senku okay, should I tell her? I'm very nervous. And Senku is like, I could not care less about this. But you should tell her, because what's the harm? What's the harm? If you're not going to tell her, then she would not know anyway. And if you're going to tell her, if she says no, then you'll not, right? Because you should know. I guess that's what's important. So this guy, I forgot his name. I haven't researched upon this podcast. For this episode, I haven't researched upon it yet. If I'm just spitballing here. If it comes out good, I'll keep it, and if it doesn't come out good, I'll just try again. But it's just I had to record today, so yeah. So this guy goes up to the girl, and he's about to tell her when suddenly, in the entire world just petrifies. Everybody in the world petrifies. Now, if you don't know what petrifies means, it's that everybody turns into stone. So that explains it. That explains that it's about stone. Dr. Stone, now it makes sense. Okay, everybody's stone. So the stone part of the show is explained to us. Yeah. Stone part of the show is explained to us. Yeah, so everybody turns into stone. Every individual, every human being, but not the animals, just birds. Except, the birds, the humans turn into stone, but no other animals. Now, there's this very, very, a split-second scene into the show where everybody turns into stone, and you see this person is walking their dog, and the dog is on the leash, and the dog is like, okay, what just happened? And I'm like, it's not part of the show, but my mind went like, oh my god, what's gonna happen to the dog now that he's tied up to that person? Yeah, that is sad. Yeah, but that's not the show. That's not the show is about. It's not about that dog. Although I would have enjoyed that show as well. So, yeah, everybody freezes. I'm saying freezes. Everybody petrifies over, and 3,000 years pass. 3,000 years pass into the show. Just like that. 3,000 years. Yeah. 3,000 years is a big deal when you come to think of it, because it's almost like all the buildings, all the man-made structures, and everything decomposes in a sense, because also there are certain things that are dependent. Like if you do not keep, what am I supposed to say? If you don't keep surveillance over certain things, I think that they would erupt and end up killing people. Like, what am I trying to say here? Nuclear reactors? Or I don't know. Like, you have to keep a certain check on things so that they work well. Right, so people are petrified. Everybody in the world, like on the surface, right? Everybody in the world is petrified, and we don't know why. That's like just the first 5 minutes of the show. And then after 3,000 years, Senku suddenly de-petrifies the stones. These stones, that is hilarious. Yeah, but he de-stones, and he wakes up in a jungle. Like, he is at nearly the same spot where he was in his laboratory. Like, he's a scientist, right? Because lab coat with E equals to MC square on his shirt screams scientist, and he was, right? He is a scientist. And he wakes up in this jungle. He realizes, like, all the buildings are gone, everybody's petrified, and it's kind of okay. Now imagine yourself, like, apocalypse has happened. It's almost apocalyptic, right? Almost apocalyptic. Like, everybody has petrified. So it is apocalyptic on the yeah. So it is apocalypse. It is post-apocalypse. Like, you wake up and you realize nobody's around. Nobody's around. No shop is there. You're in a jungle, and I mean, if I was in a spot, I would be terrified. I would not know what the first thing to do would be. I think I would search for water. I think I would search for food. But I am shit at foraging. I have no clue what to pick and what not to. Okay, so now it is at this point you realize what the show is going to be about, because it is very hopeful. As I said in my previous episode, that I'll be talking about Dr. Stone, and it's much more motivational and hopeful than Psychopaths. But yeah, you now realize why is it so? Because when Senku wakes up, he is curious. He's actually curious about what happened, why people are petrified, why were people petrified, and how to de-petrify people. Because he can see people who are petrified, who are turned into stone, and they're very much alive, because he woke up after 3,000 years. He woke up after 3,000 years just as he was. So it's kind of like preserving your body, a cryogenic sleep, that you would wake up the same age. And yeah, that is what happened. And he tries to figure out how to de-petrify people. And he does. He figures out how to de-petrify people. And okay, so I won't talk more about what happens in the show, but it's what Senku does in the show that's worthy enough to watch the show, I guess. Yeah, that is why it's worthy enough to watch the show, because it is about the power of science. And what is amazing about the show is that, see, I'm an engineering student. I'm almost done with my engineering. So, and like, you know fundamental things about how it's made. You know how it's made, and you've studied that. You know basic concepts of physics and basic things. You know how an equipment is made or how a thing is made, but it's theory, right? And even if you do practicals, it's like, how will you do it? How would you make freeze-dried ramen or freeze-dried noodles or space food in a stone age? And this guy does that in the show. He does that. He makes freeze-dried noodles, like space food. Like, it is amazing. Like, it puts us to shame. Like, if you're that kind of person who just, studies up on your exams before the night, it puts you to shame to realize that, oh my god, I've studied this. I know this could happen, but he does it. I mean, obviously there is plot armor. There is, it's an anime. Like, it would be a little bit convenient, but the way he explains certain things, like, you could do this, and it's found in nature, and how do you come up with that, and that's how it was developed, and the innovation. He talks about how things are, invented. And it's sort of like after 3,000 years, when everything man-made has almost, been destroyed and decomposed and things like that. Like, it's not present anymore, but, nature is. And how was it made? And this is something that Senku literally says in the show, that he has to, cover up years, centuries of research and invention into making something. And he remembers everything. Like, he's not afraid to actually make a blast furnace and mold glass. Like, he makes labware. He makes flasks. I guess I'm talking about the wrong thing here. Like, he makes flasks. He makes a bloody phone, for God's sake. And it's amazing. It's amazing. Like, it's so inspiring to see science be like that, like, actually in nature. If I'm not able to frame it well. When I was watching this show, I was so in awe of what was happening, because I was like, oh my god, I know that. I know how that happens, but would I be able to do that actually if I was in his position? Like, would I be able to actually make glass or do that? Let's do that. Would I be able to do that or not? There's certain things that he makes, and he makes paper, and yeah, I guess I'm talking about easy things. Like, when you come to think about, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, like, if you were listening, if you're probably listening right now, you would be like, yeah, I can do that. Why is she being like that? But come on, like, could you invent stuff? Right? So that was amazing. Like, you need determination, motivation to do stuff, and it was so inspiring to watch that show. And it is very entertaining as well. There is comedy, and Senku is against this person. Okay, so there is actually a moral angle to the show as well. So Senku is all about science, bringing back the power of science into the show, and he's fighting this person who's called, and I'm not joking, he's actually called the world's strongest high school primate. Yep, world's strongest high school primate. They actually explain why he's named that way, and I'm not going to spoil that, but yeah, so this high school primate, strongest high school primate. Yeah. Yeah, so this guy is actually on Darwin's angle that survival of the fittest should be there. So he literally destroys statues. Okay, I'm gonna call them statues because they're petrified and they're stones, right? He destroys statues of old people and people who are disabled, and be like, only the strongest should survive in the wild, because the nature has given us the opportunity to rethink what the world was before. Because I think his backstory is kind of like that he was wronged by the rich people, so he wants to make a world based on physical strength. So he revives people who are very strong and useful in that sense. And Senku is all about civilization in terms of science and benefiting everyone, making medicines and what. He makes penicillin, I guess. He makes some kind of penicillin. Yeah, yeah, that also happened. So it's pretty amazing. It's an amazing show, and it is funny. Yeah, he's such a scientist, and even then he says 10 billion%. So actually in Japanese it's sort of like 10 into 10, 10 into 100 or something like that. I have no clue. I should have researched more, but it is a great show. It's a great show, and I had a lot of fun watching it. And mostly it's about the inventions that he does in the Stone Age. I'm gonna call it Stone Age, and he's very optimistic about it. Yeah, and it's kind of like, how do you make a post-apocalyptic world this hopeful when you watch the show? And I guess that's why I loved it. I loved Dr. Stone, and it's very colorful. And it's just amazing. Like, how did he come up with this stuff? And yeah, in Japan now, when the anime was released, a lot of kids wanted, they were encouraged to pursue science after watching it. So yeah, it has an impact on people. Obviously, like that show Haiku, which is about volleyball, and people loved it. Yep. And children were encouraged to pursue volleyball after watching that show. So it's these kind of shows, like, when kids watch, or when you watch, you're like inspired to learn better, I guess. Yeah, that is what I would say. Learn better. Because you learn, but practical implications, like actual practical implications of what you learn, should be ingrained in your brain, like breath, like how to breathe. Knowledge should be like that, shouldn't be whatever you learn, you're like, yeah, fundamental, like the literal meaning of fundamental in any of the concepts that you learn should be there with you. I guess, yeah, I would say it inspires you to learn better. So that, yeah. With that, I would wrap up my episode on Dr. Stone. Okay, that was a brilliant rant. I guess I'm very happy about talking about the show. Yeah, I guess I would definitely recommend you to watch this. I would have done better research, but I was too excited to make this episode about Dr. Stone. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. That wraps it up. That wraps it up for this episode of This Is Not What I Meant. I'm Anadeep Padyal, and great. Okay, so yeah.